Good evening, my friends. Before I say a single word tonight, I want you to do something for me. Look around this room. Really look. See the faces beside you, the woman clutching her notebook like a lifeline, the man in the back row who drove 2 hours to be here, the young woman near the window who's been to 17 of these meetings and still feels like something is missing. Look at them, and then look at yourself, because I want you to understand something before we begin. Every single person in this room is brilliant, capable, hungry for something real. And every single person in this room, including you, has been making the same mistake. Not a small mistake, a fundamental one. And tonight, I'm going to show it to you so clearly, so undeniably, that you will never be able to unsee it. It might feel uncomfortable at first. It might even sting a little. But I promise you this, when we're done tonight, something in you will be free in a way it has never been free before. So close your notebooks. Put down your pens. Stop trying to capture and memorize and analyze for just a few minutes, because what I'm about to give you cannot be written down. It has to be felt. It has to land somewhere deeper than the page. Are you ready? Good. Then let's begin. I want to tell you about a trap. Not a dramatic trap, no steel jaws, no warning signs. The most dangerous kind. The kind that feels like progress while it's swallowing you whole. Here's how it works. You discover these teachings, and something lights up inside you because for the first time, the universe starts to make sense. Consciousness creates reality. Assumption hardens into fact. You feel it in your bones. Yes, this is the truth you've been searching for. So you lean in, you study, you practice. You learn SATS, the state akin to sleep, and you feel something shift the first time you really do it. You learn revision, and one evening you rewrite a painful memory and wake up feeling inexplicably lighter. You learn mental diet, scripting, affirmations, living in the end. You collect technique after technique after technique, like someone gathering weapons before a battle. And then, nothing. Or worse, almost nothing. A breadcrumb here, a coincidence there, just enough to keep you hopeful, but never enough to make you certain. So what do? You do what any determined, intelligent person does. You go looking for what you missed. Maybe you didn't loop the scene enough times. Maybe your visualization wasn't vivid enough. Maybe SATS only works lying down. Maybe it only works at exactly the threshold of sleep. Maybe the words of your affirmation were slightly off. Maybe there's a more advanced technique, something I haven't taught yet, that unlocks the whole thing. And so you come back, week after week, notebook after notebook, still searching. And my friends, I say this with every ounce of love I have for you, that search is the trap. Let me show you something. Imagine a room, a beautiful, luminous room. Inside that room, your desire already exists, not as a wish, not as a possibility, but as a completed fact. Your relationship, your abundance, your health, your freedom, it's there, finished, real, waiting. Now, around this room, there are many doors. One door is labeled SATS. Another says revision. Another says scripting. Another affirmations. Another mental diet. There are dozens of doors, and every week, it seems, someone discovers a new one and rushes in to tell everyone about it. Here's what most people do. They stand outside, studying the doors. They debate which door is best. They ask which one opens fastest. They try one door, then another, then circle back to the first. They start designing elaborate rituals around the doors, the exact angle at which to turn the handle, the precise number of knocks required, the specific words you must whisper before entering. And all the while, they never go in. Because here's the truth that changes everything. The door doesn't matter. The door has never mattered. SATS works Not because there is magic in the hypnagogic state, not because nighttime holds some cosmic power, but because when done with true understanding, it shifts your assumption. It moves you from the outside of the room to the inside. Revision works not because you are literally rewriting history. You're not. The past is gone, but because when you change how you remember, you change what you assume to be true right now. Affirmations work, but only when they are not desperate pleading dressed up in present tense. They work when they successfully make the shift from wanting to having. Every technique, every single one. One purpose, one mechanism, one result, shifting your assumption. That is all that has ever been happening. That is all that has ever needed to happen. Now, I want to say something, and I need you to really hear it. I've watched people do sats perfectly. Lying down, twilight state, vivid scene, looping 3 times exactly as instructed, perfect form, textbook execution, and nothing manifested. And I've watched people shift their assumption in the cereal aisle of a grocery store. No technique, no ritual, just a sudden quiet inner knowing it's done, and watch their entire world rearrange itself within days. Why? Because what they were doing in that cereal aisle is the actual law. And what the first person was doing, despite perfect technique, was using a tool while standing in completely the wrong state. They were performing sats from the state of wanting it to work, from the state of please, please, let this finally work, from the state of someone for whom it is not yet done. And because assumption is the only reality, because what you are conscious of being, you become that assumption of not yet is what manifested. Not the beautiful scene they looped, the state underneath the scene. This is the thing I cannot stress enough. This is the thing I have tried in every teaching, every technique, every metaphor I've ever offered to point you toward. The technique is never the cause. Your consciousness is the cause. Always, exclusively, without exception. The technique is a vehicle, a beautiful, useful, time-tested vehicle. But a vehicle is only as good as the destination you've programmed into it. If you climb into the car and drive with perfect technique, smooth acceleration, perfect lane discipline, hands at 10 and 2, but you have no idea where you're going, you will drive in circles forever. The destination is the assumption. It's done. Not I hope it will be done. Not I am working toward it being done. Not I am performing a technique so that it will become done. It is done. Now, already, in this moment, complete. I want to talk about something that breaks my heart a little. I call it spiritual superstition. You know what I mean. Because some of you are doing it right now, even as I'm speaking. Part of your mind is cataloging this, filing it away, turning it into a new rule. He said assumption is the key. So I need to assume correctly. Let me learn how to assume correctly. Is there a technique for assuming correctly? Should I do it in the morning or at night? How many times? What words should I use? Do you hear it? Do you see what just happened? You took the very teaching that was meant to free you from technique dependency and immediately converted it into another technique. This is the trap within the trap. And I understand why. I truly do. Rigid rules feel safe. A formula you can follow feels like control. When you are holding a specific method in your hands, you feel like you are doing something, and doing something feels better than the terrifying openness of simply being in a state. But here's what those rigid rules actually cost you. They cost you your power. Because the moment you decide that it only works at bedtime, what happens if you have a breakthrough moment of genuine faith at 2 in the afternoon? You dismiss it. It doesn't count. I wasn't doing the technique. The moment you decide you must loop exactly 3 times, what happens the night you naturally, organically reach a state of absolute certainty after just 1? You keep going. I have to do it right. You are overriding genuine shifts in consciousness in favor of the performance of a shift. You are choosing the empty ritual over the real thing when the real thing shows up. That is not discipline. That is self-sabotage wearing the costume of discipline. Now here is where I want to give you something, not another technique. I know you were half hoping it was coming. A new, more powerful method. The secret I've been saving. There is no secret. There has never been a secret. There is only this. Consciousness is the only reality. What you assume to be true becomes true. Assume it's done. That is the law. The whole law. The only law. Everything I have ever taught, every technique, every practice, every metaphor, every analogy, every evening I have stood in front of you has been pointing at those three words. Assume it's done, not as a technique you perform, as a state you inhabit. There is a difference, and it is everything. Performing assume it's done looks like this. You lie down, you construct your scene, you try to make yourself feel like it's done. You check whether you're feeling it convincingly enough. You wonder if your subconscious is buying it. You finish the session and immediately feel the wanting rush back in like water flooding a hole. Inhabiting assume it's done looks like this. You simply know, not with effort, not with technique, with the same quiet, unshakable, undramatic certainty with which you know your own name. It doesn't feel like a visualization. It doesn't feel like a practice. It just feels like, of course. It's done. Obviously. Why would it be any other way? That's the state. That is what every technique, when it actually works, is producing. And I'm telling you, you can access that state directly, without the technique as middleman. Not because the techniques aren't valuable, they are, but because you need to understand that you are not dependent on them. You are the source. They are the tools. And a master craftsman can work without tools if he must, because the skill lives in his hands, not in the hammer. Let me tell you what shifts when you truly understand this. Everything becomes lighter. You stop white-knuckling your practice. You stop performing faith and start feeling it. You stop the frantic technique hopping, trying sats for a week, then revision, then scripting, then back to sats with a new variation you read about, always chasing, always searching, always arriving somewhere to find the answer has moved on. You stop that. Not because you stop using the techniques, but because you stop needing them to work in order to believe your desire is real. The techniques become what they were always meant to be, gentle helpers, elegant on-ramps to a state you already know how to inhabit. You use them the way a musician uses warm-up exercises, not because the warm-up is the music, but because it opens up the hands, relaxes the mind, gets you into the right place to let the music through. And here is how you know, how you will know, tomorrow morning whether tonight actually changed something in you. When you wake up, you will not immediately think, what technique should I do today? Should I loop? Should I revise? What's the most powerful practice for this specific desire? Instead, you will ask a different question. What am I assuming right now? That's it. That one question, that shift from what should I do to what am I being is the entire journey. That is the graduation. And if you check your assumption and find it's not where you want it, if you find yourself back in the state of wanting, hoping, waiting, you won't spiral. You won't panic. You won't reach for a technique like a fire extinguisher. You'll just shift quietly, gently, like turning the dial on a radio. Oh, I drifted. Let me come back. It's done. And you'll feel the click, the settling, the peace of a person who knows, not hopes, not wishes, not tries to believe, but simply knows that it is already finished in the only place that has ever mattered, in consciousness. So tonight, I'm giving you something unusual. I'm not giving you a new technique. I'm giving you permission to put the techniques down. Not forever, not as a rejection, but as a demonstration to yourself that you understand what they are and what they are not. Use SATs tonight if it calls to you. Use revision if something needs rewriting. Affirm, script, visualize, live from the end. These are beautiful practices, and I've given them to you because they work. But while you're using them, remember, this is not where the power lives. The power is not in the practice. The power is in you, in your consciousness, in the assumption underneath the technique, in the state you're actually occupying while you go through the motions. The technique is the door. You are the room. And the room, your room, the room of your fulfilled desire, has always been there, fully formed, complete, waiting not for the right technique to unlock it, but simply for you to stop standing outside it and walk in. Walk in. You don't need more preparation. You don't need a more advanced method. You don't need my permission, though I'm giving it to you anyway. You just need to assume it's done. That's the law. That's always been the law. That's the only law. Assume it's done. Go home knowing it. Good evening.